Can you fit all of the trash that you've produced in the last year in a jar? What about the last month? What about the last week? If you answered no to all of these questions, you are not alone. Every day, the average person produces 6 pounds of trash. But there is a movement that is quickly gaining speed with an aim to stop this phenomenon, and it is called the Zero Waste Movement. On the surface, this looks like the perfect campaign to balance out all the negative impacts that we humans have had on the earth. But is it? Over the span of this documentary, we are going to go over all of the levels of the Zero Waste Movement and see if it is really everything that it promises. The Zero Waste Movement stems from the larger movement of environmentalism, which is the advocacy of the preservation, restoration, or improvement of the natural environment. This movement wouldn't have been created if the Earth wasn't at risk, because the movement came as an opposition to humans destroying the environment. First of all, I want to give credit to Indigenous people, the first environmentalists. A large part of their belief system is that the Earth is sacred and that there are only one element of the natural world that should be preserved for the future generations. Indigenous people have relied on the Earth for thousands of years for food and shelter and have always taken only what they need. Indigenous people are the blueprint of how the relationship between humans and the Earth should be. Now, let's go through some of the shifts in environmentalism that eventually led to the current zero waste movement. In the 19th century, colonization, urbanization, and industrialization were in full boom, and many didn't think of the impacts that all this would have on the environment. The few that did rallied together to try and minimize, or at least bring awareness to, the issues that all of our development could have on the environment. It was in this century, specifically 1892, that Sierra Club, the oldest environmental organization, was founded. Let's skip to the 60s through the 80s when society was going through many changes. There were a number of social movements at the time, most notably for civil rights and gender equality. The media started picking up on the harms of the industrial world, and people started to question the concept of waste. We'd constantly been spoon-fed this idea that excessive consumption is best because it contributes to the economy. We even have days completely dedicated to buying as much as you can. Although overconsumption helps the economy, it hurts the environment and natural resources. The waste that we produce ends up in one of 3 places: landfills, trash incinerators, or the ocean. In landfills, trash creates methane gas. Trash that goes through the incinerator harms local communities because of increased risks of asthma and cancer. In oceans, trash harms aquatic animals. People started to realize that wasting is not only harmful to the environment, but also costly because materials aren't being used to their full potential. We can save loads of money by reusing, recycling, and composting. In the 90s, a lot of changes happened to environmentalism to transform it into what we know now as the Zero Waste Movement. It is difficult to pinpoint the exact start of the movement. However, Daniel Knapp was a huge contributor to the initial start. He founded Urban Ore, an organization with a mission to end the age of waste. Urban Ore began as a scavenger organization, trying to find usable items from the trash that the public could give a second life to. It was like an internal garage sale, where people found holiday decorations, bathroom fixtures, basically anything you could think of. While Daniel's organization was growing back home, he traveled to Australia to talk to governments about maximizing material recovery. And it was then that he coined the term total recycling. Total recycling is the process of bringing all resources back to raw material for reuse through a 12-step sorting approach, which is now the basis for zero waste planning in many US cities. The concept spread over many areas and was finally morphed into the term zero waste. Nowadays, there is a new layer of personal responsibility added to the zero waste movement. People handle their own waste and have to find ways to minimize it through extensive research. But they don't have to do it alone, because social media has become a very useful tool. Groups of people now share their experiences via blogs, vlogs, podcasts, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you don't know where to start, you can easily find product swaps on YouTube and share tricks on Facebook. Just like any other community, there are so-called celebrities in the zero waste movement. The woman credited with making zero waste mainstream is Bea Johnson. She's one of the first people that ever documented her zero waste lifestyle on social media. She adopted the lifestyle in 2008 for her family of 4. She believes that by focusing on wasting and consuming less stuff, she's been able to create more meaningful experiences in her life. In 2008, Johnson didn't have many options for zero waste because it wasn't mainstream. So she had to be creative and make her own alternatives that people adopted later on in the movement. Her mantra is refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. In that order. Refuse single-use products that you do not need. Reduce your consumption. Reuse reusable products. Recycle what you can. And find compost for the rest. Because of all the work that she's put in, she's been able to fit her entire family's trash for a year in a single jar. The most famous person in the movement right now is Lauren Singer. You might recognize her as the girl who fit her entire trash of 4 years in a single 16-ounce mason jar. She's personally how I was introduced to the movement 4 years ago. Lauren decided to get into zero waste living in college while taking an environmental science class. In this class, she noticed that a classmate would bring a single-use lunch every day, which infuriated her. When she went home, she saw that in her fridge she had the exact same amount of plastic, and she realized that she was being a hypocrite. It was then and there that she decided to go plastic-free. She learned about Bea Johnson and was inspired to make radical changes to stop the habit of waste making. She started a blog called Trash is for Tossers to document her journey and to help others learn how to make their own zero waste swaps. She shares recipes for beauty products, how to grocery shop zero waste, and more. She has also founded 2 companies, Simply Co., which is a vegan natural laundry detergent company, and Package Free Shop, which is basically a market for makers of sustainable products that runs in New York City. Waste is not an idea that exists in nature. Ecological systems naturally recycle water, minerals, and nutrients through sunlight energy, primary producers, consumers, and decomposers. The process started before humans and will continue even after we're gone, considering we haven't destroyed the environment by then. Because of the Industrial Revolution, we have moved to a culture of overconsumption. We are constantly buying things that we do not need. This translates to individuals having little to no attachment to their belongings. I don't care about my $10 shirt I got at H&M because I can throw it away and buy another one. Because of this thinking, we are creating more waste than the earth can handle. Encouraging people to move to reusable options such as metal straws and reusable water bottles will decrease the amount of waste that's in landfills and oceans. Landfills aren't good for our health and the health of the environment. They produce a crazy number of harmful gases. Methane and carbon dioxide make up 90 to 98% of all landfill gases. The remaining 2 to 10% include nitrogen, oxygen, ammonia sulfides, hydrogen, and many more. These gases are produced when organic matter breaks down. The gases that affect us the most are ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, methane, and carbon dioxide. Ammonia and hydrogen sulfide are the gases that give landfills their signature smell. The short-term health effects include coughing, irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat, nausea, and breathing difficulties. Long-term effects, in addition to the other symptoms, include sleeping difficulties, weight loss, chest pain, and aggravation of asthma. By limiting the amount of waste, we also reduce the amount of plastic going towards the ocean and harming our aquatic wildlife. 8 million tons of plastic ends up in our oceans every year, and it makes up 80% of all marine debris, from surface waters to deep-sea sediment. The debris is then ingested by marine species, which accumulates in their digestive system until they can't feed properly and die from malnourishment. As we consume these animals, we also consume the plastics within them. According to a study done by the Journal of Environmental Science and Technology, it's possible we're consuming anywhere between 39,000 to 52,000 microplastic particles every year. The health effects of microplastics are still unclear, but it is possible for some plastics to pass from the airway or gastrointestinal tract into the blood and lymphatic system. Even though there haven't been any conclusive studies done, we shouldn't be taking any chances when it comes to our health. Overall, reducing our waste will only positively affect our society, our health, and our environment. The second benefit is that in the long run, you save money. Often, the movement gets a bad rep for being expensive because everyone is spending money on color-coordinated mason jars and aesthetic wooden toothbrushes, but that isn't the goal of zero waste. The goal is to use an item as many times as possible, and when you can't use it anymore, find another use for it. The reason why the movement might be pricey in the short term is because of the upfront cost of certain zero waste staples. For example, Castile soap is $21 a bottle, but can be used in 18 different ways. So if you buy Castile soap, you can stop buying face wash, body wash, toothpaste, laundry detergent, all-purpose cleaner, toilet cleaner, and many other items. In the long run, you can save a lot of money since you invested in a good item up front. Zero waste also focuses on buying good quality items that last a long time. By avoiding plastic, items last a lot longer, but may be a little more expensive as a result. This means a lot less replacements and a lot more money in your pocket. The third benefit is that the zero waste movement helps the economy by creating a circular one. A circular economy is defined as a systemic approach to economic development designed to benefit businesses, society, and the environment. Our model right now is linear, or in other words, take, make, and waste. In a circular economy, the economy is separate from our consumption of finite resources, which are usually bad for the environment. In a zero-waste society, one person's trash is another man's treasure. We can see this in thrift stores and second-hand stores. The circular economy also creates jobs since resources are recycled through our economy instead of being used only once. Although the zero-waste movement has a lot of benefits, it is always good to see the other side of the story. There are many cons to the movement that also need to be considered. The first is the pressure of perfection, which usually stems from zero-waste influencers on social media. When we see people like Lauren Singer, who can fit all of their trash from 4 years into a jar, it's easy to compare ourselves. The problem is that these portrayals are very inaccurate. The problem with the zero-waste movement is that it focuses on eliminating only visible waste that we have immediate control over. It does not take into account the waste from other places coming into our world. An example is buying bulk items. Okay, so you walk up to the bulk bin to collect beeswax to make your DIY vegan, gluten-free, GMO-free, preservative-free chapstick. You walk away happy with the fact that you produced no waste. But you did, it just didn't go home with you, it stayed at the grocery store. Unless the store has a bee farm, the beeswax was shipped, probably from a bag, and emptied into the bulk bin. You are still producing waste, even though you can't see it. In that example, although there is still waste being created, it is still less than if you chose a pre-packaged beeswax. So let me give you another example. Let's say you're buying fruit, and to lessen your waste, you're looking for fruit that has no produce sticker, and you come across a pear that has none. but you're not taking into account the fact that the pear was individually wrapped in plastic, put on a boat, and shipped to multiple warehouses and then to your local grocery store. The problem with this is that all the pieces of trash associated with that journey are forgotten, and the pear is branded zero waste. If the waste is out of sight, it's out of mind. Remember Lauren Singer's company Package Free? Well, it may not be as package free as she wants you to believe. Her shop is home to many low-waste products to help guide you into a more zero-waste lifestyle. The thing is, there's no definitive way to prove that the products in the shop use no waste to produce. And all that waste would ultimately fall into her hands since she's the one selling the products. When was the last time you opened a package and saw no plastic whatsoever? Whether it's the bubble wrap, the bubble mailer, or the package label, it is an essential part of the mailing system. It is simply impossible to avoid all those aspects of waste, and we don't see that being represented in her trash jar. The thousands of packages that she has sent via her online store have definitely had some type of waste, but she doesn't have to include that in her jar since she doesn't physically see that waste. The next issue with the zero waste movement is that it primarily focuses on physical waste. Obviously, physical waste is something we should all be trying to reduce, but there are many other important aspects of waste that should be brought to the limelight. Cotton has been deemed as one of the most environmentally friendly materials and is in a lot of zero waste and ethical clothing. However, cotton accounts for a disproportionately large share of global insecticide use, water pollution, and water scarcity. In addition to this, the lesser the yield of organic cotton, the lower the water use efficiency. So obviously, cotton isn't as eco-friendly as it may seem. Waste is being generated everywhere, and it extends farther than the metal straw in your hand. Again, the example of the zero waste shop also helps demonstrate this problem. Sending out thousands of packages to people around the world is obviously a task that requires trucks and cars, which produce carbon emissions. There's no way to determine the exact number of emissions that only her company has produced, but the number won't be an environmentally friendly one. Once more, we see that the trash jar is nothing but an illusion. The following issue is the fact that the zero waste movement seems to place the responsibility on the consumers to be extremely diligent with their waste. The reason why our society is so plastic focused is because companies use plastic for everything. Everything from our food to our hygiene products to our clothes. It seems impossible to escape it. It's damaging to propose that individuals can correct the years of environmental damage fueled by companies. Companies say that consumers are responsible for furthering the waste problem because of our lack of recycling. The problem is that even the plastic we recycle isn't actually recycled, it's shipped to China. To make matters worse, in 2018, China decided to stop taking Canada's and the United States waste, and all of that recyclable plastic now ultimately has nowhere to go. Consumers can help solve the waste crisis, but are not to blame. Companies continue to perpetuate a broken system and need to be held accountable for the harm that they inflict to the environment. The final issue with the zero waste movement is the fact that it is not accessible to everyone and can be classist. Going zero waste is time consuming, as there aren't affordable zero waste swaps for every item, and most people enter the movement completely clueless, which means they need to do a lot of research. Most of the time, people in the movement have a couple of staple recipes that they constantly use. The problem is that not everyone has time to make chapstick, lotion, and so many other items. People that are working multiple jobs to make ends meet don't want to have to make an item that they can easily find at the store. In addition to this, going zero waste requires a lot of research. Most people don't know if they have a zero waste store or bulk item store near them and aren't sure that it will contain every item that they need. Research needs to be put in to find low waste swaps that are affordable and that use materials that they have access to. Now, if you live in an area where there aren't any zero waste stores, things become a lot more difficult. You might need to buy products online, which comes with the extra cost of shipping. You might need to drive out to another area that offers zero waste products, which is very time consuming. The lifestyle is also not possible for people who are struggling financially. As I stated in the benefits of zero waste, it can be expensive upfront, but in the long run you save money. The problem is that not everyone can afford those costs, even if it'll pay off in the long run. If you're struggling to pay your bills, you probably won't have extra money laying around to front all of those costs. Overall, zero waste is just not doable for a lot of people. To go zero waste, you need to have the privilege of having lots of time and money to put into the lifestyle. Although the zero waste movement has done a lot of good for the world, things need to change to make it more inclusive and accessible. The movement needs to work on moving from a more individual approach to a more holistic one. The best alternative to the zero waste movement is to look at the source of your products and forcing companies to change their ways. This could be done in the form of a protest, a petition, or spreading awareness through social media. Then you're having an impact on both your waste and the waste of others if they buy from the same company as you. It's a win-win situation. We need a world where it is easier to lessen your impact on the environment when it comes to all waste, not just physical waste. If we all work together to reach a society where we can ethically coexist with our environment, our world will become a much better place.